And welcome back to another edition of Money in Motion. It is Wednesday, August 16th, 2023. Joined here with Monte. Market's not doing a whole lot today, just kind of selling off in risk assets and more of the same. But anything that you've been looking at this morning in particular, Monte, or anything that's caught your eye?
Well,
We also got FOMC. I forgot to
yeah,
mention.
FOMC, big catalyst, of course. But what's caught my eye the most is the altcoins slipping hard. That is definitely something worth mentioning today. I'm going to talk about a few different altcoins that I think could be potential good short setups based on their funding rate. You know how we always talk about, which ones are overcrowded, which ones aren't. You know what really surprised me is the lack of people that came in and tried to short Doge. I thought there'd be a lot more people trying to short Doge. We didn't really see that. And in fact, if we look at the funding rate for Doge right now, it's still positive. It flipped negative briefly, but for the most part, it's been overwhelmingly positive all throughout this downtrend. So people are still spot buying Doge long, which is interesting to me, because if you look at the chart for Doge, it's like not necessarily giving any indication that you want to buy it. I think this is people that are just playing on the back of that SHIB 2.0 narrative. But another altcoin that is flying under the radar that I think is a good short opportunity is Ethereum Classic. Not a lot of open interest in this one, so that prevents the risk of a kind of a flash like what we saw with Doge here, where you get these flash wicks that liquidate people that use anything more than 10x leverage. With Ethereum Classic, we haven't really seen that. It's more or less been like sideways and downwards for pretty much the last month, and I think it's set to continue. If you look at it from a daily perspective, I think that we eventually come down here, retest these lows around 15. I would be content to exit at those levels. So I went ahead and entered an Ethereum Classic short this morning. I think that we see continued downward price action that's based on the funding rate still not flipping to negative. It's not an overcrowded trade. And ultimately, I think people are going to be forced to capitulate, driving price down towards 15 bucks. So that's kind of a trade I discussed with some people in Discord yesterday, but one that I scaled into a bit more heavily today. And I just think it's one of those altcoins. Like there's plenty of opportunities to short alts here, but it's one that's kind of flying under the radar, and those are typically the best coins to short, in my opinion. But that's what I've been talking about in the Discord, and I've been trading in the last 12 hours. But how about you, my friend?
Yeah, I mean, crypto, I don't think I'm going to trade it from the short side. It's just kind of difficult. Rather do it in other markets, but not a whole lot going on today. I mean, energy's still selling off, and then we've got obviously the news around Coinbase and futures. So why don't we discuss that a little bit? Because coin is up, but I wanted to talk about the crypto equities. That maker chart is interesting. So coin's not doing a whole lot. Sold off a little bit after its initial reaction to news. But they got approval to start their derivatives exchange. And I think the common misunderstanding, I don't think it's going to be exactly like perpetual futures. I'm pretty sure it's not. I'm sure it's going to be CME futures or like regulated futures, or maybe Coinbase will create their own. But let's see what their specs are. So yeah, it's just going to be a monthly contract. One Bitcoin, $30,000 notional size, settled in USD. So this is not a perpetual future. This is much more like a Bitcoin CME future, and I assume they'll have like micro futures as well for retail to trade so that you don't have to put up like 30K for, one contract. That's pretty ridiculous. But I joined this today in terms of the wait list to try the crypto futures platform on Coinbase. And I think this is going to be really good for like coin long term. Maybe it's not going to do anything today, even though it is the only green crypto equity. I think you could argue that part of the coin thesis following maybe not the misappropriation of funds around Binance, but kind of like the lack of transparency around Binance and then CZ kind of stepping down. If Coin offers a very reliable place to have an alternate to those venues, then, we've been saying this for months, but why wouldn't you go trade in a regulated public company setting as opposed to an offshore, exchange where you don't really know where funds are being held, especially after all of that's happened in the space. So I think it's really bullish for Coin in the long term, but short term, I think that what you're likely going to see, or what we've at least seen thus far, is probably a lot of these equities returning to maybe pre-ETF news levels. ETF news was right at June 20th. So, when you look at a lot of these charts, you can see the move driven directly from the ETF. MicroStrategy, we haven't given back all of those gains. I'm not saying that we have to necessarily, but maybe that's ultimately like what happens. This is kind of the case for Mara as well. So you can see kind of the visual of like where we are in terms of round tripping the move in terms of the ETF news. Coin had one of the largest uptrends, so I doubt we'll get back to 56, but that's where the trend originally began. And then HUD is probably the closest to round tripping. Or actually it has, never mind, after these 2 days. Monte, any take on Coinbase? Any thoughts on crypto equities?
Yeah, we talked about them a few days ago as being potential good buying opportunities. I think that crypto futures is going to be massive for Coinbase. Like, they need that. They need some form of revenue generating like aspect of their company. Right now, just buying spot is not enough. That's not enough of a like revenue generator, especially in a market like this. People aren't necessarily buying spot, and Coinbase with their massive fees, like, people don't necessarily, they're not in a rush to buy spot on Coinbase. You can't really trade on Coinbase. So with the introduction of perpetual futures, of course that gives traders more flexibility, but also that gives Coinbase a lot of potential liquidation money. I mean, you've seen it with
Does it actually give them liquidation? I think they'll probably just make money from margin rates or like lending money to, because if you're just doing like CME futures, like I don't think they make money directly off of a liquidation. Some commercial has to write it for them. But
well, if they're
because it's not the same, it's not like structured as a perpetual future, right? They'll still make money, but I don't think it's going to be like BitMEX level, steal all your customers' money by running their stops.
no, I know, but if a customer gets liquidated, the funds don't just go nowhere. They don't just go back to the commercials. They go to the exchange that provides the leverage. So Coinbase, if they provide the leverage and then you get squeezed out, that money goes to them. So that's a tremendous new in stream of revenue. Whether or not the market realizes that, I don't know. But the crypto related equities, I want to buy them, but just I'm being patient here.
Yeah, there is a chance we could retrip, or we could round trip those gains. So just being patient. But yeah, I have a couple things you could take a look at in terms of like commodities or just other assets on the board. Just thought this was interesting. OJ going limit up 2 days in a row. It's got to be nice to be in a position that goes up so much they have to pause trading, even though there's still 3 hours left in the day, because it just got bid so much. I'm not trying to brag or anything. I wasn't in this position. I just think it's very astounding. I actually wasn't expecting. I was looking for shorts, but just didn't happen. But yeah, this is quite the chart. Now, something that's interesting aside from the, like softs that are strong today, there are a lot of strong softs today, but one that's not and one that has been giving back gains has been cotton. That was a COT setup earlier in the week that I kind of missed because I was more focusing on oil and Nikkei and other stuff like this. But this is an interesting play that seems to have been rejected at the top of its range and is just going for, some mild mean reversion, maybe at the middle of this range at 82 or even like 77. So I think you could see potentially the capturing of like long traders that got in here and you're basically capturing their losses if price continues to go down and squeeze them out. So maybe that's one. I don't know. I think I'm a little late, maybe not, but have to see kind of based on this close. I still like how crude oil and heating oil have been looking. No bids really coming in yet, especially at these support levels where I was kind of looking for that this morning, but nothing so far. But figured I'd pass it back to you, Monte, for any other comments.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, some interesting setups there in the commodities market and some interesting, movements in general. One thing I did want to just briefly point out is the fact that this is occurring. This rejection from the TNX, I think, is very important. Now, one thing to watch out for, is if we get a potential bounce from this level. This is a critical level, this 4.195. You can see we kind of set a new high here, or a higher high here after a series of extended positive price action in the TNX. And then we got rejected and are pulling back. So if we break below this level, that would actually, I think, be a very good thing for risk on price action, perhaps, for the next couple of days this week. But if this continues to grind upwards and we see it retest the highs and ultimately break into highs, then that's a very bearish scenario for risk on equities and crypto in general. So like for me right now, I'm still just watching the TNX, the DXY, right? The DXY still hasn't broken down this level of support. It is pulling back today, but nothing significant enough for me to have the conviction to enter a trade. So I'm waiting for more clarity from those, from the DXY and the TNX. I think once we get that, they're both at like near breakout or breakdown levels. I think once we get that clarity, I'll be able to enter a trade a lot more comfortably, and it'll probably be in the crypto related equity sector.
Appreciate that. Thanks for that breakdown. Thoughts on FOMC today? Think we get a little bullish spike, or I think personally we'll get some type of spike on the 15-minute chart in one direction, and then we'll probably round trip it. I don't think today's FOMC will be too eventful. Powell, you could probably already write what he's going to say. We're data driven, data dependent, higher for longer, but maybe some data comes in that prompts rate cuts. That would definitely be potential for a bullish catalyst, but interested in your thoughts as well.
FOMC, what can we say about FOMC? I mean, I think it does have the potential to be a bullish catalyst, especially today, just given the circumstances, given the fact that we've seen assets pull back significantly. I think people are chomping at the bit. Like, at least me personally, I know this is a bit anecdotal, but like I'm chomping at the bit to inject some capital into this market. I'm just sitting on the sidelines, sitting on my hands, and like that kills me. Like I want to be out there trading. I want to have my capital deployed, as much as it can drive me crazy sometimes. But nonetheless, I do think this could be a positive catalyst today. So, because we have, the TNX pulling back, DXY pulling back, I don't know. We could get a little bit of a pop prior to FOMC or during FOMC that kind of sends us into what could be new highs for some of the tech assets and ultimately a really nice turnaround formation for the crypto related equities. So I'm watching that for the FOMC, but of course, it's really impossible to predict one, what Powell's going to say, and then two, how the market's going to react to what Powell's going to say. Both of those are variables that are very hard to predict.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, I certainly can't predict them, but I think the most important thing from these events is watching how the market responds. If it responds the way it's supposed to, given a bullish or bearish event, then it's a nothing burger. If it doesn't, or if it does the opposite based on the market participant's perspective, then that's where like things are actually really meaningful. But I don't know if that's going to be eventful or whether we'll see that today or not. But
Yeah.
one thing I do have to say is like if you're thinking about getting like if I'm thinking to get like about getting short stocks based on some of these signals in COT and Jason Shapiro, like from crowdedmarketreport.com, definitely recommend you guys check out some of his work. But he, basically honed this COT system and perfected it over years. And it can be systematic. Like if you were to just go by the signals every single time, it would do okay. He systematized it for a time because Wall Street investors wanted that because they don't trust portfolio managers. Sometimes that's probably warranted. Other times, I think you got to give them some freedom to do their thing. But the returns were okay, but they degraded systematically. So his best returns came with the discretionary overlay. And the discretionary overlay in this particular instance is not shorting the stock market, namely just because if you were to compare it to what we were doing in basically 2021 or the circumstances of would have let you to short in 2021 just really aren't the same as what we're seeing right now. Like a lot of people are still really bearish, like pundits. Doesn't mean we can't go down in the short term, but like everybody's still really bearish. And like, I don't care if the market crashes. I just don't want to be on their side. I'd rather sidestep a decline. And, it's just not the same as the last peak. I think that you have way less retail euphoria. You don't have, stimulus money. This has been a very like I hesitate to even say this, but like pure. This has been kind of a pure rally, or what I should say has been a low liquidity rally.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. But I think it's funny that you're reluctant to say that, like calling it a pure rally. What does that really even mean at the end of
Nothing. Who's it pure to? Me or the like? No,
yeah,
it
right.
doesn't
Like
matter.
it's all about perspective. That is true though. That is very true. And like everyone still thinks, again, going back to the same point I feel like I keep making, but it's like everyone is bearish. Like I turned on CNBC for a few minutes yesterday and it's all bearish rhetoric, especially around crypto equities. They hate the crypto equities. My God, it is
Oh,
crazy.
really? What have they said about
Oh,
them?
nothing. They're saying about how like after like that, um, like they're expecting Bitcoin to slide, so like they expect the equities to slide, and like miners aren't earning money. I'm like, you don't know that. Like, just talk about the stocks that you are trading and that you know about,
They
whatever it
don't
is.
know anything.
Yeah, the IWM, stick to that or something or whatever. I don't know, but yeah,
Stick to
this has been
shorting
a really
Nvidia.
interesting rally in the S&P, and we've had basically what's been like 10 days now of a pullback. Do we bounce back here and start heading back up towards the highs? If there is a day to do it, I think it would be today. We have the catalyst of FOMC, and also, like I pointed out with the DXY and the TNX, both kind of pulling back a little bit. So I think if there was a day for the S&P to head back up towards the highs, and yeah, I could definitely see that happening. A nice pure rally.
China has really sold off hard in the last week. or two. Basically, when you remember when we saw that thing on CNBC where the headline was "Coast is clear for China," and it was literally the
Yes.
local top. We've round tripped basically all of those gains. So like Baba is kind of interesting, maybe. I don't know. I'd probably wait. Hang Seng looks actually pretty bad. I'd wait for some kind of reversal. Maybe. Maybe it's getting time. We'll see. Just figured it was worth a mention because it's gotten absolutely destroyed the past like week.
Yeah, it's been definitely a rough week. Yeah. But that's really all I got. Anything else you'd like to add before we wrap things up today?
No, I think it's just always good to kind of remain flexible or like fluid in the markets, not get too extreme about one particular direction. Even if a trade worked out, or if it didn't, like there's likely going to be a new trade that comes along that could be even more profitable than the one that you were like envisioning or maybe like counting on. So like an example would be like I was looking at Russell and catching the move from 2000 to 2100 in that breakout like last week, and it just never happened. So, you can just let that idea go and something new comes along, like energy, or for instance. So, like, what's going to be after energy or something like that. So, I think from that perspective, you never really have to force or like really count on one particular trade working because there's always going to be something new that comes along, which I think is really cool. And maybe it's to the long side in equities here. Maybe it's not short equities. Maybe it's short something else like commodities we talked about. But we'll see. That's one thing that's really kind of just helped me is not like focusing in on like any specific assets price target, but just kind of being fluid with the market and very adaptable. So there'll always be another trade, even if you think you don't want to miss the best move right here or whatever. So
Yeah, that's important to keep in mind. There's always another trade. You can always, and like if you're in a trade that's in profit, you can always exit and re-enter. If you're at a loss, you can always exit and re-enter. There's always that opportunity. So don't ever feel like you're trapped in a position. You can always get out and re-enter. That's something a lot of people don't take advantage of enough, in my opinion. Is like re-entering and then changing your stops to break even and deploying that sort of like trading style. But yeah. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Going to be an interesting day with FOMC. And as always, CJ and I will be hanging out in the Discord. If you want to join us, you can try it 14 days free at tradethechain.com. Me, CJ, Nick, Alex, and the rest of the crew and community members from all around the world will be hanging out, eagerly awaiting the market's reaction to FOMC today. So definitely check that out if you haven't. And please also like and subscribe. It really helps out our channel a lot. But that is all we got for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you again soon. Take care.